This is the Ramana Maharshi Self-Knowledge Satsang. Self-knowledge is what brings self-realization, the deep experiential knowledge of your own existence, here and now. This is a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I've followed Ramana Maharshi for 30 years. I took satsang for years from one of the finest teachers of Ramana, Nome of Sat in Santa Cruz, California. I'm a seeker just like you, sharing what we love. I have been blessed with years of deep teaching, so this satsang is to share this with you. The background image today is Ramana Maharshi and Muruganar in what is now called the Old Hall, where Ramana sat with visitors for about 25 years. This is from a famous Life magazine photo. This series is a paragraph by paragraph review of Ramana's seminal book, Who Am I? The all-text version edited by Ramana himself. So let's get on with it. The paragraph we're on today is paragraph 18. And here Ramana is continuing his instructions on self-inquiry. These are Ramana's words. For instance, the mind subsides by the practice of pranayama, restraint and control of the breath and vital forces. Yet such subsidence lasts only as long as the control of the breath and vital forces continues. And when they are released, the mind gets released, and immediately becoming externalized, it continues to wander through the force of its subtle tendencies. Now, the form of meditation, pranayama, is concentration-based. Here, the mind is focused on some point of meditation, the breath, and the mind becomes filled with what it focuses on. And the other thoughts stop so long as the focus remains. When the focus is interrupted, the mind again flows in habitual ways. The issue with any form of concentration meditation is that concentration is mental and is naturally on some mental or physical form. It's difficult to move to the formless through a form. And self-inquiry is a formless meditation. That's its power. It's hard to get to a thought-free state using the mind. The whole purpose of inquiry is to move deeper than the mind. With the mind, the most you can know is the blankness when your mind is out of answers. This blankness is known. Who or what knows this blankness? The answer to this is beyond the mind. The answer is your very existence, being, consciousness, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda, the self, yourself. Early in my practice of self-inquiry, I would use a form of pranayama as a means to quiet my mind and to improve my concentration. I used a mindfulness technique, watching the breath as it flows in and out. Then, once my mind was quieter, I would start the inquiry. I asked Nome about this in satsang and was told that this is okay. It's important for the seeker to develop the ability to concentrate, and that pranayama is a fine way to develop it, but that it is not a substitute for self-inquiry. Inquiry needs a quiet mind to get started. For me, this has been a good way to begin. Once I feel the peace of the quiet mind, then I can start my inquiry. Ramana says that you can either inquire into your own nature or continue to reinforce your tendencies, your habits based on ignorance. You either do one or the other. So why not inquire? Now, here are some ideas for practice. Just close your eyes and watch the breath flow in and out. Does it feel relaxing or peaceful? Do your mind, your thoughts slow and then get quiet? When you stop watching your breath, does your mind then return to its previous state? If not right away, then after a while. Who knows this flow of breath? Diving deep into this inquiry can move you past the mind. That's the whole point of it. That is also why I start with noticing that I exist. Already, I start deeper than the mind or the senses. Now to our videos for the week. First is Swami Sarvapriyananda. And this dynamic Swami is the head of the New York Vedanta Society. And his talk, this is an excerpt from a longer talk on practical methods of meditation.
If you want to do something, remove the ignorance that you are not Brahman. And that removing the ignorance does not come from doing something, rather from knowing, from knowledge. And knowledge comes from listening, from study, from the knowledge which is transmitted by the scriptures or by the teacher. That has to come alive within us. So yes, I'll make a radical statement here. If you ask a strict Advaitin, is listening enough? It seems to be deep inside us, is that we have to listen to the teachings and then go out and do something. That's deeply ingrained in us. A strict Advaitin would say, listening is the final sadhana. The central sadhana is to listen to this teaching, because ultimately we want the knowledge which removes all others. Then what about meditation? What about bhakti? What about rituals? What about service and all of that? All of those culminate in this listening. All other sadhanas will culminate in listening to this truth. What is the truth? The Guru tells you that thou art. Tattvamasi. And we will get the realization, Aham Brahmasmi. So that this transmission from the Guru, the highest form of transmission is the silence in which Ramana always bathed in and always radiated. That's the highest form of the teaching. Otherwise, one step lower is that when the Guru teaches with words, the words of the Upanishads, that thou art. So listening is in fact the highest sadhana. In Advaita Vedanta, listening is the highest sadhana. All other forms of sadhana, whether it's Patanjali Yoga or Bhakti or whatever, you learn how to meditate, suppose Patanjali Yoga Sutras. You take up the book, you learn about meditation. Unless you actually go out and do meditation, it's not much good. You're a scholar of yoga philosophy, but you need to do that. You take up a book on puja. You learn how to do the puja. But actually, until you go out and do the puja, it will not give you a result. Advaita is different. See, I'm trying to emphasize the difference between Advaita and everything else. Advaita is different. Advaita is pure knowledge. You're not supposed to go out and do something. You're supposed to know it or understand. In fact, I'll put it in this way. We are in the realm of sadhana here. And I told you the goal of sadhana ultimately is not a positive goal to make you something. The goal is a negative goal to remove the delusion that you are not Brahman. Now, I'm reminded of what one Swami said in the Himalayas. Very nice. He says in Sanatana Dharma, in spiritual life, in eternal religion, there are only two ways. Only two ways. Jano ya mano. Jano means know it. Realize it. Get it. See it. That's jano. I can't. Then the other option is mano. Believe. You see, most people in the world today understand religion as faith. In this country, for example, the word used for religion, especially these days, is faith. What's your faith? Advaita Vedanta is not a faith. It's realization, it's knowledge, it's understanding, it's insight, it's getting it, jhana. Otherwise, until we get it, mano. Okay, take it for granted that it is correct. What the scriptures are saying, what Bhagavan Ramana is saying, what all the masters are saying is true. I don't get it yet, but I'll try to get it. So that is the core practice. Listening to these teachings and trying to understand it. When we try to understand it, there'll be doubts. And these doubts are clarified in the second component of practice, which is mananam. Shravanam first. Mananam is thinking, reasoning it through. I have doubts. How can I be Brahman? What is Brahman? How can I be Brahman? When I reason it through, all the questions that come to our mind, all have answers. It's a vast body of all these texts. All the questions that come to our mind have been asked at some time or the other, and the answers are available. That's mananam. At the end of Shravanam, we should, if we don't get enlightenment, at the very least what we should get is all these teachers, all these scriptures, they are telling me one thing: I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. That's what they're telling me. That's what it's all about. That's the end of conclusion of Shravanam. Then the problem is that doubts come. Mananam is the next stage. At the conclusion of Mananam, reasoning, the first stage was, I know what the scriptures are telling me, but the problem was, I don't get it. I don't understand. I've got so many questions. At the end of the second stage, you will say, I know what the Upanishads and Vedanta is telling me, and now I understand it. I get it. But then what's the problem? I get it, but it seems to be an intellectual understanding. If I have the problem that it seems to be an intellectual understanding, I get it intellectually, but in my life it's not making a difference. I don't doubt it, what Vedanta is telling me, that in some sense, yes, I am Brahman right now, but it doesn't seem to be real to me. I'm still behaving like that old person. Then the third stage comes, nididhyasana, which is assimilation of the truth. Assimilation of the truth. By meditation on what you have got in Shravana in the first stage, what you have clarified in Mananam, now you say, I know what Vedanta teaches, I am Brahman, and I am clear about it now, no more doubts. But it still has to become real to me. Then you meditate on that. Vivekananda says, tell yourself again and again that I am that, I am he, soham, till it tingles with every drop of your blood. Then it becomes real to you. Nididhyasanam. So that is the method, sadhana. Today's subject, sadhana. Let's see how I am doing. Okay, we have time. Now what happens? Is this enough? Again, we scratch our head and say, Swami, I have been studying Vedanta for 30 years. What you're saying is fine. I've been coming to the Arunachal ashram for 25 years or 40 years. But my delusion is not gone. I'm studying it. I'm listening to it. I hear it all the time. I chant and I meditate on it, and all of that I do. Not clear. I mean, it's not becoming real to me. Then what do I do? Then Advaita Vedanta says, the problem is, it says vikshepa, they call it. The first problem was ajnana, ignorance. And the solution to that problem was Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The solution to ajnana is jnana. Ignorance is always removed by knowledge. And how do you get knowledge? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Now, our complaint now is, it's not working. We've been trying it all this while, it's not working. What's the problem? Vedanta says the problem is vikshepa. The mind is not grasping it. The teacher transmits, we are blocked. The mind is scattered. It's unable to assimilate the teaching. It floats on the surface. So the problem is this flickering of the mind, this inability to assimilate. This is in Sanskrit, it's called vikshepa, the scatteredness of the mind. Scatteredness of the mind is the problem, then the solution will be concentration of mind. Scattered mind, problem. Solution, concentrated mind. And what is the method for concentrating the mind? Now we are on more familiar ground, meditation. So this whole science of meditation, according to Advaita Vedanta, is a sadhana, is a method of practice, no doubt. It is useful for concentrating the mind. So you have the whole science of meditation. Meditation is also a sadhana, but we must realize it's a method, a sadhana. What is the goal of that? According to Advaita Vedanta, the goal is not enlightenment. Enlightenment comes only from knowledge, jnana. But method of this meditation, the goal is concentrating the mind, focusing the mind, stilling the mind, so that the truth becomes evident. So that's meditation. That's also sadhana. But we must be clear what is the goal of that. It's a method, so method must have a goal, purpose. The purpose of meditation is stilling the mind, quietening the mind, focusing the mind. Okay, very good. We start meditating, sit with eyes closed and sit straight and breathe in this way and repeat a mantra, whatever. Problem. What problem? Swami, when we do that, two kinds of problems. Either we fall asleep, especially when it's nice and warm inside. Or the other problem is the mind is scattered. I try to meditate. I'm meditating on Om or on Shiva or on my Ishta Devata, but the mind runs here and there. Scattered mind. Mind is disturbed, chanchala. Arjuna asked this question to Krishna in the 6th chapter of the Gita. The meditation methods you have taught me are useless. Arjuna says. Why? Because you might as well try to catch the wind. The mind is so restless. It's like trying to catch the wind. Now what's the method? The mind, why is this happening? Why is the mind not getting focused in spite of dedicated meditation? Vedanta says there is another tier of the problem, another layer of the problem. What is the new problem now? Chitta mala, the impurity of the mind. It's because the mind is impure. We have dumped garbage in the mind for years and years and years in our lives, and we believe in many lives. So many lives of garbage has accumulated. That's the meaning of the Augean stables in the myth of Hercules who cleaned out the stables which were dirty. That's basically our subconscious. Because of the impurity of the mind, we are unable to meditate. So now the problem is impurity, chitta mala in Sanskrit. And what is the solution to impurity? Simple. Chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. How does purity of mind come? One very powerful method for purifying the mind is karma yoga, is unselfish action. There are many ways, but unselfish action is recommended in Vedanta. If you purify the mind, when the mind gets rid of its dross, then it's very easy to meditate. One Swami in the Himalayas said, Samadhi is very easy. I'll give you Samadhi in 2 minutes. You'll meditate for only 2 minutes, you'll get Samadhi. He said in Hindi, Shart hai lekin shuddh man lao. I'll give you, but there's a condition. I'll give you the deepest meditation, Samadhi, but come with a pure mind. Well, therein lies the trick. A pure mind, not so easy to attain. Okay. We'll pause here. I'll give you the big picture. What has been outlined so far. Remember, the subject is sadhana, spiritual practice. Why spiritual practice? Any kind of practice is meant to give you a certain result, right? So we have talked about 3 problems, 3 solutions, and 3 methods. I'm summing up what we have done so far. 3 problems, 3 solutions, 3 methods. What is the problem? Impurity of mind, chittamala. What is the solution? Purity of mind, chitta shuddhi. What is the method? Karma yoga, unselfish action. With a purified mind, then you go to the next level. What is the problem there? Chitta vikshepa, scattered mind. What is the solution? Chitta ekagrata, concentrated mind. What is the method? Meditation. In Sanskrit, upasana. That's where bhakti yoga and raja yoga, meditation, Patanjali yoga, they become useful. That's the second level. Then the final level, the highest level. What's the problem? Ajnana, ignorance. What's the solution? Jnana, knowledge. What's the method? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The essence of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is Atma Vichara. If you want to compress the entire method of Jnana Yoga into one term, is Atma Vichara. What Ramana Maharshi again and again and again said, find out who I am. If you ask a question about sadhana to Ramana Maharshi, he will not give you a 1 hour long lecture. What is the sadhana? Today's subject, if you ask Ramana Maharshi, he would have said, find out who is asking. Find out who is asking. In the Mandukya Upanishad 7th mantra, there's a term, very deep term used, Ekatma Pratyasaram. Atma Pratyasaram. Follow this I consciousness. Continuously we have this experience. I. I am speaking, I am standing, I am looking at you, I am thinking. But the standing, speaking, looking at you comes later. The constant is this I. And we experience it. This I is not the Atman. Let's be very clear. This I is not the Atman. It's a function of the mind. It's the ego. But in the ego is reflected the consciousness of the Atman. They call it in Sanskrit Chidabhasa. If you follow it back to the source, you'll come to our real self, that is Atman or Brahman. That is the highest sadhana. I'll take questions. So think about if you've got questions, that's a much better way of discussing this. So let me just summarize what we have done so far. The whole problem is we do not know we are Brahman. If we knew that, none of this would be necessary. None of this would be necessary. Ramana Maharshi never ever asked, what is the sadhana? Why? He's already got it. He's immersed in Brahman, in the real nature, in the self. So no need for sadhana there. That's the highest sadhana. To be always aware. Atmanam satatam janam in the Aparoksha Anubhuti. What's the stage of a Jivan Mukta? always immersed in the bliss of the Atman, the vision of Atman, vision not in the sense of seeing this, that I am Brahman, is ever before that person. That person is no longer a person. He's one with Brahman. So that's the highest. So that's the purpose of sadhana, to become aware of our real nature. How do you become aware of our real nature? The question is, what prevents you? Ignorance prevents us. Take it in 3 stages. Ignorance, problem, solution, knowledge. Ignorance of what? The self. Solution, knowledge of what? The self. How do you get that? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. And the essence of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is what Bhagavan Ramana used to always say, who am I? Trace it back. Now the problem is, we say it's not working. Why is it not working? Then the second tier of the problem, mind is not ready. Mind is scattered. So scattered mind, problem, chitta vikshepa. Solution, you can tell me. Concentrated mind, chitta ekagrata. Method, meditation. Upasana, yoga. We're trying that. What's the problem? Fall asleep. Mind is running here and there, not working. Then what's the problem? Third tier, bottom tier of the problem. The fundamental problem, impurity of mind. Chitta mala. Solution, purity of mind. Method, one method is karma yoga, unselfish action. I hope you've got the metrics in your mind clearly about sadhana. This is from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, Shankara Advaita. Sadhana is like this. Sadhana, is it required or not? Not required. You are Brahman. What sadhana do you need? So the only purpose of sadhana is to remove the ignorance that you are not Brahman. I'm reading out the matrix, which should be in our minds by now. Now, what is the scope of sadhana? Ignorance, knowledge, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Scattered mind, concentrated mind, meditation. Impure mind, pure mind, karma yoga. What did I say? Problem, solution, method. The method is called sadhana. The solution is called sadhyam, goal. Sadhana method, solution is goal. And why do we need all this? Because we have these problems.
And next is Mooji, and talking about the power of inquiry.
He Govind, He Gopal, He Dayalunath.
In the last moment, the last 10 minutes, the last minute, the last second, you must separate. Will you hold the hand of the mind in this moment? You see, one place, a chance to be totally alone. So do it while you have the full vital force with you. We're still talking about the mind. Yeah, my mind is like this. Of course it is like that. Because we give so much importance, so much attention. We feel it is so significant. But for someone, it is nothing at all. It's just wind. But for another, it's stopping me from seeing God, The mind doesn't have this power, not inherently. It is a power that has been invested in it by belief. You have created a monster also. It has no power in it by itself. A thought comes. A thought cannot even think itself. Simply arises. It must contact belief and interest that will ignite its power. You see, you must know this thing. By itself, no thought. Mind is thought. No thought has this power. I said before, no thought is self-employed. It doesn't work for itself. It doesn't know itself. So therefore, what is a thought? It can only have meaning for you. Can't we look like that a bit more deeply into it? Because the whole world talks about the mind. Oh, my mind is so strong. Oh, my tendencies and so on. And of course, we cannot ignore because they have a force, it has a force. Some tendencies are so deep that when they arise, you are completely blind, disabled. And so in some cases, some people, they are completely frozen because some energies come, some tendencies, maybe the fear of rejection or something like this, or something that when this force arises, they are coming not only from memory, it's almost like they're in the very cells of the body almost. When they come, they seem to cover up your spontaneity, your freshness, your distance. Where did they get this power from, you see? They have the power of holding the beingness hostage so that you feel blocked. Then what to do about this? Can you simply ignore it? Many things you can just ignore from the mind. Don't give any thought, and it will go. But there are some forces cannot be ignored. You turn away and they'll be there. They will also. Why? You see? Homegrown. Homegrown. You see? So they feel like they are your shadow. Wherever you go, they'll be there somehow. How will you transcend this power? Because it is not supporting your truth, something that makes you feel separated, alienated. How will you transcend this thing? So first of all, you must look and find out, okay, let me have a full look, feel the full blast of this energy, and we all know this thing. In the same way that all the beings in the ocean are wet. You see? All the beings in manifestation have conditioning, taste conditioning. Don't believe that a Buddha or a Christ escape it. No, they had also, but something transcended, understood even. They didn't work necessarily just with blood, sweat and tears. Sometimes understanding also grew. Surrender, openness, determination, all of this. So first, if these forces you recognize, my words, what I'm speaking, has some truth for you, that there are certain tendencies that you recognize, that when they come, if they don't come, you can feel Buddha itself. Buddha itself. But when they surface, you're only the Buddhi. When they surface, oh, where's the Buddha is gone? Then what will you do? Then the question may be put, who suffers this? Not too quickly. Allow the effects to be felt in the body, but don't participate. Something wants to participate. It becomes very personal, but there's an awareness of that. But you stay only as somehow your eyes, as though you are only existing through your eyes only. Then you feel the effect in the body. Don't try to put out any fire. Just stay put. Then see who is damaged by this. On whom is it impacting? Who is a sufferer of this? So take time. Don't like this immediately start asking who. But first feel the effect fully. Then look who is the sufferer of it. Then see if the sufferer can be identified. This is the way of inquiry. And this is the power of inquiry. So again, first thing, whatever the effect is, let it happen. Let it happen. Something is trying to run away from the effect. You're also aware of that. Don't identify with this one even. Even in the most powerful pulsations of the mind, there's witnessing there. And in that witnessing place, there is a silence. Be there. Nothing more than that. No weapons are needed for you. You're not going to get into a fight with your mind. You're only observing, but hold Don't identify, and you become more aware of presence. Don't participate, and gradually you'll feel somehow that you're here as just presence. Then you may ask like this, who is suffering this? Who suffers this effect? Keep quiet and watch. See if you can identify the sufferer, because all the life we are carrying around this identity as the one who is suffering. You may not speak it, but somehow it is there somehow. See now if you can identify the sufferer. Yeah. And when you're looking like this, suddenly, like something seemed to vanish. But don't buy this. Hold the question. Who is the sufferer? Don't look, don't be in a hurry for relief. Not yet. When you win this battle, win it thoroughly. Take no hostages. You understand? So you look again. If you feel some relief, don't be too grateful. Not yet. Still stay. And watch. Look. Who is suffering? Who is a sufferer? Feel the energy of these tendencies in the body. They are still trembling. Who is the sufferer of them? Be very clear about it. See if you can identify. Is the sufferer tangible? Look. Then sometimes suddenly, in such an intense moment of looking, you'll find if it stays just looking, you're only quietly holding to see where's the sufferer, you see, then already something begins to deconstruct. But don't make any handshakes with the mind. Stay only there looking inside. Look. Be very, very present. Then you may find yourself, this kind of effect will come. Something is being burped out. Still, don't record anything. It may still coming. This easing out of compressed energy can come like this. Either that, or suddenly you start to think of pizza and other things, and this means somehow your attention is going. So you bring him back again, and you keep quiet and hold him, and you look like that. And stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, until it's exhaled out. And then there's a ground of peace, silence. Still keep on. You see, something feels, oh, thank you. Who is this even? Don't identify even with this one. Nothing is there. No winners, no losers, no hostage, no I. And so here you have been shown the power to bring even the most chaotic thinking, most rebellious thinking, to bring again into silence. This power you have, and I'm showing you how to use. Because no one has been exempt from this type of psychic attacks, panic attacks, mental attacks, all these type of things. So here is the way that you face them. At some point, there is no identity left inside. Then you may feel you want to sleep or something. Or maybe the opposite, tremendous energy come, and you want to walk around this mountain twice. People have done it, so much energy. If you can make it once, well done. Some people going twice. They can't exhaust this energy. They're like a fly on a thread. They are going. But somehow it's okay. Don't give any special meaning to that. Like this you must do. This is the power of the inquiry. in a simple way, direct way. And everybody can do it.
Ananath, anath sakhe, deen dard.
Then we will listen to Nome, and Nome was my teacher for many years. Like Ramana, he had a spontaneous awakening in his teens. Meditate along with him to experience what he's talking about. Experience it. Don't just think about it. Here is a dialogue on the nature of the mind, and you might recognize my voice. It was me asking the question.
My inquiry and practice for the last period, I've had much interest in understanding the nature of the mind. Perhaps that is encouraged by the reading that I've been doing in Yoga Vasishta and Shankara's quintessence of the teachings. From a deep point of view, I know what is required for to understand the unreality of the mind. Certainly, with that knowledge, then everything else becomes simple, I think. Still, in trying to understand this in Yoga Vasishta and quintessence of the teaching, they talk about the mind, and I think Yoga Vasishta talks about impure mind, pure mind. In quintessence, I read about conditioned mind, unconditioned mind. I think they're still speaking of the same thing, just with different language. Somehow this seems to be an important step in for the seeker to take kind of on the way to no mind, if you will. And wanted to ask you about this and how to best use this kind of view of the mind in practice.
When the mind seems to be conditioned, by what is it conditioned? It cannot be by external circumstances, other people, things, events, etc., because all those exist only within the mind. Within one state of mind, the waking state.
So the conditioning really is just another thought.
Yes, and what is spoken of as a mind with conditions is a mind that is put on limitations. The limitations are the forms that are imagined within it. There is not some other factor conditioning it. It is conditioning itself. It is limiting itself. A mind that believes, that is, attributes reality to what is imagined only within itself, is an outward-going mind. Within that context falls all duality. Within that occurs misidentification, attachment, and the rest of what is only a cause of bondage and futility in life. An inward-turned mind is one that is dissolving. that attribution of validity to what is merely imagined. So within an inward turned mind, the sense of identity, the sense of reality, and of course, happiness, are all being returned to their origin, to the rightful place, where they actually always are. Sri Bhagavan has said the mind is only a bundle of thoughts. If you would cease to believe in the reality of your own thoughts, what would be left of your mind?
Seems almost like there one image I get of the reality of the mind is, some kind of dog barking in the distance. It has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
It's being made for no purpose.
Within a great silence, some useless noise is being made. That is one way of looking at it. But with your inward turned mind, seek the very source or nature of your mind. If there's no dog, there's no barking.
As you talked here, you have talked, it seems like several times this year, probably also before that, and I was not hearing what you said, but you talked about how do you know what is real. And it seems like what you have said here is just approaching that from a different angle. When I have, as I've meditated and inquired on how I know what is real, this is one of the things that has brought my focus to the mind, into the waking state mind, and I've seen in that inquiry and investigation that, what ordinarily I take to be real is the product of this waking state mind and nothing else. Except there still is reality beyond that doesn't include it somehow.
There is reality beyond whatever is conceived in the mind, and of course whatever is perceived by the senses. The vividness of that reality, one infinitesimal portion of that, is borrowed, as it were, to give what people refer to as their present experience, mental or physical, the quality of being real. The experiences keep changing. The quality of being real remains.
Always.
This tells us something.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us that the reality itself does not belong to the forms of any of those experiences. A thing cannot be real at one time and unreal at another. Reality will not change its nature, and the unreal will not change its nature. The unreal will not become real, and the real will not become unreal. The experiences, gross and subtle, sensed and mental, keep changing. They cannot be real at one time and unreal at another. If they're unreal at the beginning, unreal at the end, they are unreal even in the middle. What then is real all the time? The unreal is being, through imagination, merely superimposed on the reality. But the unreal has no actual substance. The reality is shining all the time. What you use to determine what is real very much goes into the make of what you consider to be. If, for example, someone takes the senses to be the determinants of reality, They all consider the world of phenomenal things, and the body, the reality and their identity. Of course, if a person recognizes that the senses are not very accurate in showing reality, in fact, they don't show reality at all, then they will proceed to use something deeper or more interior to determine what is real, what exists. If thinking, the mind, is used as the measurement tool for reality, thoughts themselves will be regarded as real, with the present thought seeming to be the most vivid. This is no different than what happened with the senses, but it's more subtle. It's equally objective, equally unreal. How do you know thought is? When you have the idea, thought is, upon what is that idea based? If within the mind you have the thought, the mind is, upon what basis does that thought stand? Everything you know about the mind, including the very notion that it exists, depends on something that knows all the time, with or without thought. That which is the ultimate knower bears none of the attributes of the known. That absolute knower is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness plus the notion thought as being existent comes out as the idea of I know it and a mind. Trace that mind to its source. Seek out its essence. See what is there.
Seems like that is the pure mind, which is no mind at all.
So Vedantic scriptures declare that the mind of the jnani is Brahman. It doesn't mean that there's an individual called jnani, and he has this thing called the mind, and his mind is of a special type called Brahman. It does not mean that. The jnani, the mind, Brahman, are all identical.
One thing that has really helped, and is a great aid now still, is reflecting on the reality of dreams and just comparing and contrasting that. But again, it's very clear that in the dreams, the sense of reality and existence are just the same as they are in the waking state. And again, this is a point now where I have no doubt. And that has to make me ask more questions about the reality in the waking state and what is really real.
If you go on inquiring like that, you'll find the reality or pure existence, which is not a product of any mental state, waking, dreaming, not even dreamless sleep. Yes, what is real? The only way to know it is to answer, who am I?
And now we will meditate for a bit, inquire, and first just notice that you exist. You exist and you know that you exist. You don't have to think about it or sense it This knowledge is deeper than thought or the senses. And then inquire, investigate within yourself. Watch your breath as it flows in and out. Who knows this flow of breath? It is known by the senses. The senses are known by the mind. Who knows the mind? Who knows? Who am I? All right, let's close with a short chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more for you. A free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on the screen next. These satsangs will continue in the coming weeks with this series based on the Ramana Maharshi book, Who Am I? Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you.